All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, but we're actually going to be going over several things here today, including Erdogan to declare Israel war criminals as Turkey rallies behind Hamas terrorists. So again, there's some really, really crazy things here. So hold on one second. Let me just make sure that we got this. And let's see. Got this. And bam, there we go. So we have Erdogan to declare Israel war criminals as Turkey rallies behind Hamas terrorists. So this is not a surprise. We have talked about Erdogan since he was causing NATO issues on Finland and Sweden. Now Turkey's President Erdogan is set to launch a global initiative to end the fighting in the Strip as his country prepares to officially proclaim Israel a war criminal, according to the pro-government newspaper Hürriyet. Recep Tayyip Erdogan previously threw his weight behind Hamas, claiming that the group was not a T organization, but a group of freedom and Mujahideen warriors who were striving to protect their land and their citizens. Now the leader is aiming to start a global initiative to call for a ceasefire in Israel to end what he has branded as war crimes against Palestine. He said, "I will call each of the world leaders, negotiate with them, and meet with them if necessary. I intend to launch a joint global initiative on Gaza with leaders, presidents, and prime ministers." Now, remember, this is a NATO member. As far as I don't know how much pull they actually have outside of this, but it is a powerful country as far as there's a lot of things that tie in with Turkey, and that's why they're at the table. But as far as him doing this is exactly what we said would happen after we saw our officials essentially call out, oh, by the way, once everything is done and they take over the Strip, we shouldn't see Israel take over the Strip and reoccupy it. They were talking about it like it was already a done deal, like it was going to be taken over, and they were already planning for the win and what happens next. I said that I think that means others are going to be like, whoa, slow your step here. But now Turkey is coming out on this side. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. So stick around. We'll be right back right after our disclaimers. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Heartbroken survivor. I know. Well, that especially matters to you. I know. Obviously, if you are blind, then volume matters a whole lot. So I apologize, and I hope that is fixed. So, Heartbroken survivor, if you can let me know, and if everybody else can let me know if the volume is okay. It's because I manually turn it down and up every time. So sometimes I don't turn it up as loud as it should be. But anyways, we're getting started here. Remember, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. Go to New Dawn. It's almost go time. Again, we'll talk about what Marfoogle family active duty military members are saying right now. Again, so that's going to be later. And then New Dawn, I'm referencing what I think is going to happen, which I know people think is absolutely crazy. And people think that it's totally unthinkable. I don't, as far as referencing Red Dawn. Let's see here. Thank you, Mercedes. Thank you. It says it's 100% fine. I don't think it was when Heartbroken Survivor. I think she was right. It was probably low. Let's see here. Thank you, Curb Creeper. If you guys want to do a quick roll call, I'd love to say hi and just do a general state. You'll find other Foogle fan members and Mafia from your state instantly have something in common. Let's see here. Bill Fortenberry says, hello, Adam and Dex. Can hear you just fine. Well, thank you. Internet on Australia. I wish I saw the rest of that comment. If you can, if you want to put that comment one more time, I know the mods don't want you to repeat stuff, but if you can repeat that one. Said something about the internet. Now, I know that you guys lost 40% of your communications in Australia, and they said it was, I forget what that was. It was some sort of air or something. I don't believe it. There's been a lot of electronic events and internet and communications and banking events. Lord Andrew from Central Florida, North Dakota oil field, Arizona, Marty. Hey, nice to see you. Shannon Irvin was up from Springfield, Illinois. We have Commonwealth of PA. Let's see here. Sergeant Sedenko. Let's see here. Shout out from Southeast Iowa, East Central Missouri. Let's see here. Northern Indiana. Nice to see you. It's nice to see you. It says, are you coming back? I hope I'm already back. Let's see here. I'm comfortably numb, says Mama Sap. Well, so is the rest of the country, apparently. Bremen, Georgia. King Illa. Thank you. Arlene, Anarchy Television, Michelle Bordeaux, Asha, and Dan Oberweiser from Western Montana. Got a lot of California, a lot of Ohio, a lot of Texas, a lot of Ohio. Again, thank you. Nashville, Tennessee's, all sorts of great people in the house. So thank you guys for making it. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother from Georgia, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine, and I know Bremen, Georgia. It's not too far away.
Bremen.
Yeah, Bremen.
I've never been to Georgia. I've been like all around Georgia, but what is it? What is your state like? Is it mountainous or well? I know it sounds stupid, but
lots of greens, lots of green trees. We got lots of foliage. It's pretty dense. Stay out of the cities, and all the roads are crooked. And they're all named Peachtree. So you'll get lost.
Yeah, that's funny. And then make sure to go check out the mods over at marfooglenews.com/mods. Again, that has, /friends. Again, we should have just a mods, but it is marfooglenews.com/friends. That has all of the mods, and it has all of our other friends as far as creators go. U.S. and Japan navies stage aircraft carrier meetup in Western Pacific. So I've talked about Japan for a long time. I was told to watch Japan, and this was from somebody I trust. I think that obviously this was before Shinzo Abe was taken out. It was before they flip-flopped on their whole self-defense force, and all of a sudden now they are changing their whole constitution to be a forward military or an offensive military. I mean, literally their force was called the Self-Defense Force. Now they are switching that up. And many said that was not even possible unless Shinzo Abe, if that didn't happen, they don't think that it would have flipped that way. After he passed, all of a sudden his party got all this support. We've talked about all the weird changes there that are going on right now, including, you may not know this, but Japan has been, I guess some would call it backwards. A lot of places in Japan are still cash only. They still use fax machines. They still do a lot of checks. They didn't have, I believe, the equivalent of like a Social Security. All of these things are now coming to Japan. Like they're now pulling Japan forward, and a lot of Japanese folks want it to stay like old school. They just want it to stay the same. But there's a lot of changes happening there, and that's because they are now becoming this entirely other country. They are turning into a war first country. They have been talking about China for a very long time. That we have talked about the Asian NATO is what they called it, which would be South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. Kind of this trilateral agreement between the three that they would help and support each other. Well, Japan has also had issues with North Korea. Of course, North Korea has been launching missiles over their island. And then, of course, they've been having problems with China because China is claiming islands that Japan is also claiming. And of course, they believe that if they take Taiwan, that China will then take Japan. So Japan is something to watch for sure. And out of all of the things, like when UKR and Russia was going, a lot of people were caught off guard that this whole Israel thing popped off. We weren't. We were actually specifically, we had to dig to find Israel slash Palestinian stuff in the news, and we wanted to continue to cover it because when UKR and Russia happened, it was kind of like what happened to UKR and Russia now, where it's like the coverage of what was going on in the Middle East just dried up. It's like everybody just forgot that we were in this 20-year, absolute mess over in the Middle East. And it's like people just stopped talking about it. Meanwhile, before all of this popped off, you had Palestinians going over and hurting people here. You had Israelis at, this event. You had people at funerals taking people out. And the funeral was for somebody who was taken out in the event over here. There was all these tit for tats. So I was not surprised at all when this 7th event happened, which we just covered on news. There was a lot of weird stuff around that. But with Japan, again, this is the thing that really could get me is a surprise event that is involving Japan. That is something I believe that could happen. And I think it would catch everybody off guard, even though there's been all of these moves and all of these, if you follow the paper trail, they are beefing up their military. So it's under my personal opinion, and you guys can go with whatever you think. It is my personal opinion that Japan is going to be one of the first countries that gets in a hot conflict in World War III. I believe we're already in World War III. I just believe it hasn't gone fully hot yet. But again, let me know what your comments are. Leave a comment if you're watching the replay. Tell me what you think. But now they, of course, have 2 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers joined up with a Japanese helicopter destroyer for an exercise in the Philippine Sea over the weekend. A gathering meant to show the two allies' ability to quickly mass forces during crises. It said that the meeting of some of the world's largest warships involved the Carl Vinson and Japan-based Ronald Reagan, joined by the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force helicopter destroyer, the JS Hyuga. The drill, dubbed a multi-large deck event in naval lingo, took place in the Philippine Sea between November 4th and November 8th. It says it marked the second occasion over the span of a few days that a pair of U.S. Navy aircraft carriers conducted exercises with each other. The Gerald R. Ford, Dwight D. Eisenhower staged joint training in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea the previous week. So there's been a ton of drills. Now, everybody's talking about the Ford and the Dwight D. Eisenhower, and of course, the Dwight D. Eisenhower that arrived from Norfolk just about a week ago. The amphibious ready groups that are over there, but a lot of people are forgetting about everything that's going on in the South China Sea. They have massive groups over there. Of course, they had all of the groups and the amphibious ready groups from Japan's base in Okinawa. All of that is now rumbling too now. So I would not be surprised if some event happens with either China and Taiwan, or Japan and some sort of outlier, or a strange vessel ends up hitting a Japanese cruiser or a Japanese destroyer or something, and they call it a Tonkin type event, So I would not be surprised by that. That's what I'm looking for. Let me know what you're looking for. Dex, we've just seen one after another, like huge, massive military drills, and people still don't believe that we're heading towards war.
Well, certainly. And putting 2 aircraft carriers together, it's not something they do often. So that's kind of momentous or monumentous. And it's something to, on one hand, it's sort of a signal or a sign, a show of strength. There's also a risk, I guess, involved in that. And if you have everybody in one spot like that, 2 carrier groups together, it probably makes it a lot easier to, say, target it with a nuke. Not that that is happening right now, because nothing is that hot at the moment, but you never know when something would start. So I think there's some logic to keeping them separated, or at least not close together, but there's also some interesting strength that you can show when you bring 2 of those carrier groups together in mass like that.
TD Freelancer made a good point. Says you always say that something's bigger is coming. And time again, we have been right. Before CV, we told you there was a pandemic that they were drilling for, and we said something bigger was coming. We told you 6 months, 9 months before, 3 months before. We said, hey, this is really weird. The W and the H and the O is actually putting out graphs of how a global demic is going to affect us. And I said, something big is coming. And of course, people didn't pay any attention. A lot of you guys did. And people, countless people thanked us because they were prepped. They had toilet paper. The witnesses are right here in the chat. They can tell you how prepped they were during CV because they specifically knew from this channel that it was coming. And yeah, I do say that we got that because it was validation for what I was saying, and I was confident. I was so confident before anybody was even covering it. I was there at the freaking hospital with the first patient. I was at the first camp where they held people that were sick with it. Now, mind you, we look back and now we think, oh, this whole thing was a whole BS everything. But back then, if you go back in time, people were scared, people were everything, and it affected the whole world. It affected the whole economy. It shut down small businesses. The only people that got to stay open were Target and Fred Meyer and all these big conglomerates. Meanwhile, the ma and pa's shut down. All the salons, all the hair places, they basically went out of business. And all of the small cafes and everything else that had to close down for months at a time died. Along with it, the middle class on top of all of this. And we warned people. We said something bigger is coming. When I say something bigger is coming, World War III is coming. That is the next event. I also think that in the West Coast, just because of the time frame, that we are looking at Cascadia subduction zone. We will have a 9.0 earthquake on the West Coast. Those two things are my main concerns. And subsets underneath that, World War III will bring cyber events. It will bring hacks, which we have covered. They are happening right now. If people think that the Federal Reserve, I'm sorry, I don't believe it, that all those deposits were affected, and then it just so happens that a couple days later that China's banking system goes through massive ransomware attacks. I mean, come on, that's a tit for tat. And then, of course, all of the events, Australia losing 40% of its telecoms. I mean, literally half of the country couldn't use their phone, internet, nothing. That's an ally of ours. Not to mention the 5.3 million people that have come into our country. So yes, you could say, I say something bigger is coming all the time. I also said 5 years ago that Israel and Palestine would be popping off. I said all of these things would be happening because me and everyone else and all of my peers all saw this coming like a bad B movie where you know that the person's going to run up the stairs instead of out the door. The people we're trying to reach is the people that have no idea it's coming. The people that literally have never even had a side thought about this. The thing is I'm preaching to the choir. Most of you already agree with me. Most of you know this is happening. Most of you know something bigger is coming. I guess I should learn some new vocabulary so I could be better about saying it. But I 100% believe it. And my validation will not be okay because you won't have the internet to watch me for me to say I told you so. The next event is going to be something that no one will ever forget. And I really, truly believe that inside my heart. That's why I prep. This is news from a prepper standpoint. So again, I think that something bigger is guaranteed at this point. After Israel and all of this stuff pops off, there's no chance. Not to mention, I follow this stuff every day. I'm looking at every single country, and every last one of them is drilling for something massive. And we're supposed to believe that everything is just going to go back to normal? I don't think so. That's kind of like, saying that they're just going to stop doing the JABs. And then China fears losing control over Kim as Russia bonds with Korean dictator, says former UKR minister. So kind of crazy who's saying this, but again, China fears losing control over Kim as Russia bonds. So they're trying to set it up like China is trying to steal Kim away from Russia or something. I think this is all a bunch of BS. Dex, I think they're all in cahoots, but Dex, what's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, certainly we have seen the tide, or at least the attention, be turned directly towards Putin from Kim, and he's rightfully so at the moment. He's got something they need. They've got something he needs, so that's where you're going to see it happen, and that's why we've been paying so much attention to him, and everybody's been reporting what's been going on with the potential. Or as they've said now, the movement of massive amounts of munitions and other things from North Korea to Russia. It certainly, I guess you could hypotheticalize as they're saying that, it would bother China. I don't think it matters because China and Russia are no limits partners. They're in this together. They're working in probably some sort of concert step together on most things. They may have some differences on a few things, but generally speaking, they're working towards the same goals for themselves globally. And North Korea is just part of that, and if anything, it's a puppet for them. And I think this may be, I don't know that I'm buying this as much as, it's just somebody taking the obvious and sort of framing it that way.
As far as how they frame things, remember all of this mainstream media, a lot of it is talking about real events. People are very confused. They think everything is fake and that everything's CGI at this point. But a lot of it is real. They just shape how you view it. That is the whole point of all of these operatives in MSM is they are literally shaping how you perceive things. All right, before we move on, just a reminder, if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, and boats and anything that runs essentially from an EMP or a CME, a Carrington level event from the sun, which again, we'll probably have an update from Wages World here soon, or we'll play one of his videos because there apparently is solar activity going on right now as well. But the thing is we're heading into 2024, 2025, which is the maximum, the solar maximum of a very unpredictable cycle. All of these things are lining up for 2024. If you didn't believe in Bible prophecy, if something massive happens, then I bet you there's going to be a lot of people that start. But as far as this device, this is a very, very straight up device. It will protect your vehicles. It grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. And of course, it can protect you against not only lightning, CMEs, EMPs, but it also gives you sound mind that you can get home to bug in or get out to bug out. If you work very far from home, this would be definitely a good thing to have. Again, and they have a device for almost everything: your house, your generators, your ham radios, your solar systems, pretty much anything you can think of. So again, marfugglenews.com/EMP. Thank you for going through us because that will give us a commission. And again, it will give you a $50 discount at the same time as supporting independent news. And then North Korea on Blinken's agenda in Seoul under shadow of the strip. So Dex, again, since you went over the last one, this is so Blinken, by the way, has been in the news like nonstop for the last 3 weeks because of Israel and everything else. But South Korea, North Korea, remember the drill they just did? Essentially, the hypothetical scenario was that North Korea would do a surprise event. They compared it, a surprise event, much like what happened on the 7th, only it would happen from North Korea into South Korea with artillery. Now, there's all these meetings going on. It doesn't sit right with me. What do you think, Dex?
I totally agree, and the intelligence reports that have been coming out of South Korea have been feeding the cycle, so to speak, putting out as much information about what NK's been doing, about the warnings they have, and I think, and then we even had the leader, one of the leaders of the T group over in the Strip, come out and say, "Hey, NK will." Be one of the ones that strikes America for us because they're our ally and they're the only one that can do it and get away with it. So they're basically pointing and directing everyone's attention towards NK as something big in the Asia Pacific area. And I think that's important for us to pay attention to, but don't ignore what's happening in the South China Sea because, as we reported earlier with the Philippines and what's going on there, and matter of fact, Japan just sending over equipment for the first time they've ever done this, given their equipment to the Philippines. Those are all big deals, and all of this happening in that area of the world is signaling that things are ramping up. And I think we have to, pay attention because ultimately the biggest challenge for the U.S., as everyone has said, is having the U.S. in a multi-front or around the globe in multiple locations, defending or engaged in a military conflict. So if we're fueling UKR in Europe and we're helping Israel in the Middle East, and then we're somewhere in Asia or in two places in Asia or in the Pacific Oceans, that would be tremendously difficult for us. I think we can do it, but that's what they've said. That would basically stretch us thin.
And that is the way that almost all of the governments that are involved, China, Russia, and the Pentagon, has said that the only way that the U.S. would lose, and they didn't count like scenarios where EMP knocked our grid down and they already had an army inside our country. I don't know if that was one of the scenarios, but that's kind of what people are thinking. But the only way that we would lose is if we were spread thin already and there was a multiple front war. Otherwise, we kick everybody's butts if it's a one-on-one. One-on-one with Russia, we're crushing them. One-on-one with China, we're crushing them. Where it starts getting into the hairy territory, and they did not only human war games, they did quantum. They did I don't know if it was quantum, but they did some of the most powerful computer simulations of how it would play out. And every time that we had a loss, it was the only situation that happened, not only on our end, China's and Russia's end, was where we were spread thin and we were in multiple conflicts on multiple fronts. And it's playing out like that's exactly what is happening right now. Dex, go ahead.
It wouldn't surprise me if we saw, even in the Pacific theater, multiple conflicts just there. I could easily see something go down where they use North Korea to start something and we have to engage. At the same time, they do the South China Sea, so that while we're distracted and split to the north and south in the Pacific, they quickly take Taiwan. And we're so thin, we can't deal with it in all three locations, let alone being thin across the globe.
Yeah, think about how complicated the North Korea, South Korea thing is. You've got Israel, Russia, UK, Israel, Hamas, and then you have China pop off. It's like, it seems like it's a bad B movie. Somebody said that Blinken has Lego man hair. It's pretty funny. I actually totally get that. But I just noticed the red fiery eyes. I know that's the reflection from a nighttime shot. Or is it? And then let's see here. ChatGPT down as anonymous Sudan hackers claim responsibility. There's just so much weird going on. OpenAI has suggested that significant outages on November 8th experienced by users across ChatGPT and the application programming interface were caused by a suspected distributed denial of service attack. A group calling itself Anonymous Sudan has claimed responsibility for the DDoS attack against ChatGPT. In a Telegram channel posting, the hackers claimed that the attack was due to ChatGPT having, quote, a general biasness towards Israel and against Palestine. So they're saying it's and this is Sudan stepping in. Like, this is biblical. All the countries that are taking that side and they're all speaking out about this. Dex, as far as DDoS attacks, so how long was ChatGPT down? They said it wasn't too long.
I think it was experiencing multiple outages, and that's typically what happens with a DDoS attack. They basically try to flood it so that it can't respond or it can't operate. They send too much traffic towards it, so it would probably be intermittently available and sometimes not available at all. So they did say that they were able to get some of the things fixed fairly quickly. But that type of event, if they find a way to infiltrate them and affect them with a DDoS attack, it can sometimes take them down for an hour or two, or even more.
Now, as far as if they actually have a bias, we know that ChatGPT has a bias. It especially was very, very visible before the last update. I think it's better at hiding the biases now. But like before, you could ask, give me something negative about JB, and it would be like, well, that he's not president for 4 more years yet. That's the only negative I can think of. And then you ask something about T-Man, and it would go off on a list of offenses that he's done throughout his life and crimes and accusations, and it would give you. Dex, do you remember? Were we not doing that? It was like we were on Zoom laughing at it, like it was so biased, it was not funny. It was like we asked it like 10 other questions about other people, and it was like on this side they would just GPT would trash that person. On this side they would give all of the accolades. It's like and if this is the future, and if this is going to be starting if this is going to be ingrained in all the search engines, imagine how that's going to affect how you find people organically like us. It's not going to work anymore. The crazy thing is most of you probably found me either by or through somebody, or you found me before when YouTube was like, you could literally find somebody on accident. Now, the only person you find on accident is Mr. Beast. Dex, go ahead.
I tell you what'll be interesting is when somebody takes another platform like ChatGPT that is as powerful as ChatGPT. Maybe it's going to be Grock, or it could be one of the other ones like Microsoft's. Well, Microsoft's using ChatGPT now, so it's the same thing. But taking two opposing platforms and have them talk to each other to try to expose bias or other information, and you program them to do that against one another, and then you see them go at it. That's coming. I expect to see that soon with Grock or one of the other new ones that's coming out.
Somebody said, what does Palestine need to be freed from? Well, I'm not taking a side on it, but what people claim is that they are in an open air prison, that they are not allowed to leave. I mean, is that a basic truth? I mean, Palestinians can't just move to somewhere else, right? Do they have to stay there? They have to, right?
Yeah, their position on that is that they were taken from their homes when the state of Israel was created, because they were forced to relocate to other locations and told where to go. So they want their place back, but the other side is saying, hey, we were thrown out of here, centuries and centuries ago. We want our place back. So everybody's claiming the same place as their place, and everybody is being displaced by one another.
Yeah, and as far as when they said to evacuate, I saw so many comments the 3 days after that saying, well, they're probably going to Egypt or they're going here. I'm like, they can't go into Egypt. Evacuation was just evacuating one half of the country and going down to the other half. They weren't able to actually leave. There's giant walls, there's cameras, there's gun towers, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. But as far as taking aside what is happening right now, I'm looking at the big picture. You see all these protests. One side is definitely more vocal than the other. And of course, there's accusations that places like platforms like TikTok are helping feed this bias, worldwide. And you see these huge, gigantic protests, but you don't really see protests on the other side. You see lots of propaganda type videos. And I don't know how people see, if there's 20 videos of somebody taking down the signs and they're all the same, like people don't see that. People don't see that that's propaganda. I even saw some weird propaganda the other day. I shared one of them. This girl got this guy's name, Kevin, on her forehead. And I thought, oh, God, what an idiot, and it actually shows her getting tattooed. But then I saw 4 other videos of other women in the same style getting it. And I'm like, is this propaganda? Like, this is the weirdest propaganda I've ever seen. Are they, why, what is that? Like, it's not a trend either. It's like, literally, it looks like it's trying to push something onto people. I don't know. It's just so weird. But the people taking down the signs, every one of them has somebody like, that's my cousin or that's my whatever. The odds are that somebody just happens to catch a stranger taking him down and happens to be related. I think it's impossible that 10 people videotaping with their cell phones. And some of them are so bad. Like the one that I shared, if you go to my Twitter at Marfoogle, go watch it for yourself. Tell me that doesn't look like it's staged. But why would it be? Why is this happening right now? My thought is this is pushing us into a bigger war for bigger money, for bigger bucks. And the people at the very top are going to prosper a lot. And it's going to meet other goals that people really don't want to talk about that are taboo. Like, I don't know, less people, destroy the middle class, inflation, reset the currency, reset the economy, because they're literally telling us that they are going to change everything in the next couple years. Right now, they're in development and loading up brain implants. They're setting up for a system where there will be no petrol, that you're not going to be using gas in cars, and that we're going to go all electric, but somehow the world runs on petrodollars and we're supposedly supposed to get off that system and just do it overnight or something. How would that work? The world, which runs on money, which everybody knows, money is literally the ruler and the evil of this planet, is the petrodollar. Every war that's ever happened has almost been, for the last 120 years, has been about oil or some sort of resource. Now, is it going to be over electric, lithium or this or that? I don't know, but they're going to reset the whole thing. They're calling it the reset. They're literally calling it a reset. So if you don't think that something bad and big is coming, then I would say do a whole lot more reading and look at what they're actually saying. Not some theory on the side of the internet, but what are they actually saying is going to happen. Let's see here. Thank you, by the way, over on DLive. Thank you, everybody. WIS Jan, thank you, Vinny Doom. Hopkinson, am I crazy? No, I don't think you are. I don't think a lot of you are. I think that now crazy is something else. Kelly2334, thank you so much on the last show. Thank you for the after super thanks support. Thank you. Let's see here. Kirk Burning, thank you, says whoop whoop. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol, again. Thank you so much for the support. Marie Shelvin, Meepup007 says we're definitely headed towards war. Shout out to the mods. And then Rumbly the Clown says, awesome. I usually catch the replay in my ready mix truck here in Minneapolis. Thank you, Adam, Dex, and fam. You kickstart my mornings. Rumbly the Clown, good morning, and I'm glad to hear it. And then Kirk Burning, that was last night, but I believe I missed you because you were last out the door. So this is directly from, and we've got this linked on our website, United States Census Bureau. U.S. population projected to begin declining in the second half of the century. Isn't that convenient? The U.S. pop is projected to reach a high of 370 million in 2080 before edging downward to 366 million by 2100. By 2100, and it's crazy we're even looking at, like, I remember watching a documentary 10 years ago about the year 2100 and the things they said that were going, I don't know if it was Ganda, but they said we would be wearing rebreathers and the whole world would be covered in pollution, and I'm sure it was. But the fact that we're talking about 2100, and it says the total U.S. resident population is only projected to increase 9.7% from 2022. The latest U.S. Census Bureau populations project released today. This is 2023 national population projection is an update to the last series of projections published in 2017 to account for the impact of CV and the reflective results of the 2020 census through the inclusion of the vintage 2022 national population estimates as a base. So they're saying that it's actually going to go down by about 4 million at some point before we get there. And here's the other crazy point. There's also a prediction out there that it would actually be a whole lot less. Not to get into the Deagle stuff, but Deagle knew what he was doing. If people don't know who Edwin J. Deagle is, I would go look him up. He served under 5 presidents, and he was the man behind Deagle.com, which is now defunct. He died, and it got taken down. It got put back up. It got changed. But his predictions were by 2025, something would happen, and that we would lose 2/3 of our population. He put it at about 100 million. He was a statistics genius that presidents personally asked him for help. 5 presidents had him. Before computers and all of that, it would be somebody like him that would simulate out what was going to happen in the future. And he was very good at it. And that's why he was picked by so many presidents to be so close to them, because he was accurate. He was really good at what he did. I did a whole video on it. If you go to marfooglenews.com and type in Deagle or Edwin J. Deagle, you'll actually get that show we did. And we actually dug deep on who he was, what the background of the website was. It's really crazy. But when you look at this, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't look that bad, right? That's not counting for massive wars, famine, plague, bio events, gene-altered, race-specific bio stuff. But who knows? Dex, what did you find interesting out of this?
Oh, it's funny. The first thing I thought of was Deagle. I'm like, why are they? They're so far off from where he was going with it. But at the same time, this is like, hey, if nothing changes, if things just using statistics and the way things have been going, this is where we're headed. And we're obviously not headed for growth. We're headed to a peak, and then we're just going to start to decline after that. And we have to, if we don't want to decline, then we have to change things. We have to procreate more. And I think others have made that statement before, and I think there are others that don't agree with that and actually would like to see that number go down, not just because of political powers and whatnot across the globe, but a lot of people think about it from a standpoint of they don't think the globe can actually handle the amount of population. So that whole notion of reducing is hot topic, I guess, to some, or a preferred topic to some people out there, probably a lot of people that are in power, as we've seen and talked about over time.
Well, and it's like, as far as the predictions, Elon was one of those people. He said that everybody should have 5 or 6 kids right now, because we're actually going to hit a point where he talks about how many people are in adult diapers compared to baby diapers. And yeah, it might look crazy now, but in a generation or two, then all of a sudden it's going to fall off a cliff. Japan is already in that spot where they have more elderly than they do youthful babies in diapers. They have more elderly in diapers than they have babies. So that has already happened in some places. China, they say that that's partially happening. Now they're encouraging people to have more children in China, because at this point they're losing their workforce, and their workforce is one of the most demanding in the world because of their manufacturing. And then time for a generator. New warning says half of the U.S. is at risk of a grid down this winter. So, what's interesting about this is we've covered a bunch of these kind of warnings, but usually they're by city. Usually they are somewhat semi-regional, but they say periodic or sporadic. But this is kind of crazy, because they're talking about half of the U.S. is at risk of grid down this winter. It says assessment, the winter reliability assessment, which we actually covered this last year, the 22-23 one. The North American Electric Reliability Corps warns of a heightened risk of insufficient energy supply during extreme cold spells. It says this concern extends over large swaths of the U.S. and Canadian power grid. So this would also affect you up there. This is affecting approximately 180 million people. Those living in the highlighted regions should consider securing backup power generation sources. It says power grid operators from Texas to New England are at risk of insufficient electricity supplies during peak winter conditions. Now, also think about our adversaries and the many adversaries that are planning for a tit-for-tat kind of ordeal. If they can do a grid down right, or if they do a cyber event right, and where they don't get caught, or they can do it without, being pegged right away, grid down or EMP or any of those kind of events, the reason why they're more likely is because they don't directly take lives. And usually you're supposed to respond in kind. They can't send an artillery shell over take out 5 people and you respond with nukes and wipe out their whole country. Just as if they do an EMP, the in-kind response would be to do one back. But usually it's not. If they do an EMP, you do nukes and wipe them off the planet Earth, right? But this is pretty interesting because they're saying this. I just think of the adversaries, especially even if we don't have a natural occurrence here and it's already at its peak, they're saying that half of the population is at risk of losing power. Then what if they do something or a cyber event that actually affects it during those time periods? This is coming up. Like, this is really, really close. And it's everything just happens to line up too. All of these predictions, all of these warnings from the FBI, from DHS, from the reliability warnings, all of this, the NERC, all of these line up with right before everybody goes and picks who they want to be our next prez. I just think that's interesting, especially considering previous comments by Mr. Gates and others saying that there would be multiple events that would happen. Dex, go ahead.
And in excuse me, in the chart in here, you can see the sort of the layout of from Texas up to the New England area. Now, some of the southern states like Alabama, Georgia, and Florida look like they're in the clear. And I think if we could put that on the screen too, you can also see, there it is, the people in Canada, that's Saskatchewan. They are even worse. So while everybody in orange is at a threat if we have bad weather, if the extreme weather is there, we have an elevated risk of losing power, which is significant. They are already at it without even having extreme weather. So they're really bad. But I don't know how many people we have listening in Saskatchewan, but I guess you may know that already.
And it's crazy how much everything is connected. It is obviously a grid. That's like when there were the smaller attacks that were on our grid where the guy was taking pot shots at the thing and the guy drove by and took a pot shot at the thing. And the one town that lost, it was like 40,000 people lost power, and they said it was intentional, that somebody did it. People were like, oh, well, that's just a small town. Who cares? It was a plant that was connected to all of it. So if you knock down one place, in fact, they say that you could, this may be updated. I don't know, because as of a couple years ago, they said that if you took out 9 transformers, just 9, if you knew the right ones, 9 transformers, major big transformers across the country, you could knock down our entire grid. Now think about how vulnerable a lot of these places are. You would hope those 9 places were secure, but we heard from politicians that basically blew the whistle that they're not. They don't have full security. They don't have anything. Somebody could make an IED or a drone, and it's happened. They don't actually publicize it most of the time. Who knows? They might tell us, oh, yeah, sorry, it was raining. But those events were not being reported. 700 events happened in a matter of years, and only two, which were both cyber events, were publicized. And the second one was quite recent, like 2 years ago. So if something does happen, I doubt that they're going to tell us right off the bat. But if it's something this big, which again, that would be big, then who knows what will happen. And then scientists create Frankenstein chimera monkey that glows green. No joke. Before we go into that, though, as far as if you do not have backup power, make sure to go check out Energy. This is why we've recommended this. We've recommended this for now 3 years. Energy is actually one of the best solar generators out there. This is a system that's modular. It's, again, something that can be expanded up to 96 batteries. And you don't have to worry about dealing with a gas station if SHTF happens. Like I said yesterday, if we really do have a grid down, gas stations aren't going to work. And even if they do, there's going to be 10,000 people in line, and you're probably going to be getting in fistfights over gasoline. Now, a gas generator is great. And if you have the ability to have a gas generator and barrels of gas, and if you really want to last time, you're going to need it, then it's good to have either a gas-powered and a solar, or have, again, both. or have a huge stockpile. With this, all you need is solar panels, and you'll have unlimited power as long as the sun comes out the next day. Again, and then charges it, then holds that power for when you need it. So if you don't need it one day, you can of course charge it up, keep it for a week, and then use it when you need it. Again, this is an awesome system. This is also the same company that is now working with the Army. The Air Force Research Laboratory just designed the Energy Flex Tactical with the help of Energy and that laboratory. And this just won the SBIR Phase 2 contract. So this version, which has built-in heaters in each batteries, this one has a 1,500-pound latch steel reinforced frame. And it has, of course, water and dust resistance. This one is going to be a weight, but it is definitely worth it. This one is Army strong, and they're not joking. That one's going to be shipped out with the U.S. Army under that contract. So go to marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you save, but you'll also be helping us out at the same time. We've already gotten thank yous from Foogle fan that have used this during power outages, and it's usually a small storm, but small storm or big storm alike, it is really, really awesome to have. Anybody that knows if they don't have to go to a hotel or a friend's house or, of course, go without power, then it's pretty awesome to go business as usual. Dex, do you want to talk about the scientists create Frankenstein chimera monkey that glows green?
Wow. So as the picture shows, what they've got is these fingers. So this is the birth of a chimeric monkey with glowing green fingers and eyes. Look at the eyes.
E.T.
This is because of modification. So it's like something out of a horror movie, something you probably, we've heard rumored before. But researchers in China announced the long sought birth today, sharing images of the long-tailed macaque whose cells are made from embryo injected with others and genetically distinct cells. So they basically designed this. They put the cells in to make this happen, to make green glowing fingers, to make the eyes that glowingish green color. And this is kind of crazy. The picture, I think, says it all. I don't think we need to go into any other details here. I'm not a huge fan of this. But nonetheless, think about what will be done with this technology. They're just, this is child's play, so to speak, for them. Like, oh, let's take a macaque and make it glow green. But where they're going with it is, can they, do something to a human? Can they make a super soldier? Can they make, what other modifications can they start to design in other creatures or specifically humans as things progress? I think that's the scary part of this. This one part here, it's kind of gimmicky, but at the same time, this is where they're testing. And I think what we need to be worried about is where they're going with it.
Yeah, and it says stem cells modified to glow green were injected into a number of Marola embryos, those that are 4 to 5 days old, to help identify whether or not the additional cells had multiplied. Obviously, with those green fingers, they figured it out. This is terrifying, and they don't have the same bureaucratic tape that we do. And this is the whole argument about AI, and that, Elon and other people were asking for us to take a 6-month pause. China's not going to take a pause. They're going to go all out, and they're not going to stop. Because most of you know, I don't support AI. I think I support minimizing technology and actually going backwards, which is, I don't know. It seems crazy to me that cell phones and everything has completely changed people completely. And I don't think it's a good thing. I guess, a lot of people think that if you're not willing to, try new things or to adapt, whatever else, I just don't think it's a good thing. If there is it will probably in the future, I believe it will probably be a kind of almost an ideology to be less about electronics. It will be like people will choose to live in places without internet and phone and things like this. I know that people already do, obviously, but I think it will be a bigger thing in the future when it gets so crazy where I mean, look at where it's going. Brain implants, chips in your hand. I guess it's not my bag. I see, especially, I guess something that burnt me really hard is I saw how the teenagers are being affected by it. When you see how kids are affected by these cell phones, they can't go 5 feet away from the plug-in. And then you also realize, like, kids at Christmas parties, I noticed this with my extended family. All the kids were sitting on a single couch. None of them went outside the single time. They were playing a game together, but they were all on their own cell phones playing a digital game together. And I'm like, this isn't awesome. This isn't fun. Like, Christmas, we would play hide and seek and, like, play tag and run around and play board games. Now they sit on their phones, which is what they're doing 99.9% of the time otherwise. I think it's sad. Beef prices hit record high as southwestern U.S. recovers from worst dry spell in 1,200 years, or at least that's what they say. It says beef prices have spiked to a record high, which, again, this is on top of everything else, $8, $12 eggs, and all of the other crap. Even people are talking about McDonald's being $16 for a Big Mac meal. Like, that's insane. I haven't eaten there in a long time, but I certainly won't be going there anytime soon with the $16 Big Mac. And now beef has gone up even more. It says retail prices hit $8 a pound, topping the previous record of $7.90 during the demic, according to Financial Times. So let me ask you this. Why are prices higher than when we were in a worldwide demic when everything was shut down? That doesn't make sense to me. It seems purposeful. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, don't you think it seems like super off that we're out of the demic? Everything has gone back to somewhat normal. I mean, like, we're not walking around with, well, I guess some states are doing it again, but we're not walking around with stuff on our faces. We're not, things aren't shut down. Why is it more expensive than it was during this event that shut down the whole world?
Well, they're trying to blame it on the dry spell, but I also have to think there's got to
BS.
be a little bit of play here on just inflation too. I mean, you got to imagine the cost of everything else is going up. I wonder how much of that plays into it. The cost of raising cattle and everything that it's affecting every sector. It seems like. So I got to believe there's something there, and this is a lot higher than, like you said, that's the highest it's ever been. So that's a lot. I mean, I noticed it the other day. I was in the store. I was like, "Wow, why is ground beef so expensive now?" I mean, I've always thought it was expensive, but it's even more expensive. I'm like, "This is crazy."
Dan Oberweiser, ding, ding, ding. Who's buying up all of the farmland? Let me show you. I'm sure most of you already know. Why? And then the same guy who says all this stuff is that, and that's why I pay attention to what it's saying, right? As far as the, when he says, he made a quote. He says, "Yeah, I find that times are probably really crazy right now, and we'll probably see a civil conflict." What else did he say? He said a civil conflict, hung election, and gosh, what was the third thing? He said a third thing, and then the next couple days, because it was such a wild quote, they were like fact checking it, and even the fact checkers were like, "We're still processing this information." They wouldn't say it was false, of course, because he said it. Dex, go ahead.
Well, let's not forget him and others and then the investments that they've been making in lab grown meat. So that's expensive right now to make, but as they make it more proficient, they'll make it cheaper. And if they can make it cheaper and they can make the the actual natural grown so expensive, that's a surefire way to get this, lab grown products in, every fast food joint, in every low income family because they can't afford it. That's the only thing they'll be able to afford. It will happen that way for sure.
What does it say now? Let me see here. Yeah. So instead of saying false, it says unproven. And the claim, it says, Gates said, I admit that political polarization may bring it all to an end. I don't know what he's talking about. We're going to have a hung and a civil conflict, right? And he doesn't say we may, he says we're going to, right? And this is the claim, I'll say, because, and they didn't, I remember do you remember when I showed you this the day after and it said we're still looking into it? Now they say unproven. They don't say it's false. So they can't prove it's false. What does that say? Snopes is so quick to say everything is false. They said something that JB said and everybody heard. It was a video where we heard him speak a word and he said it wrong. And they were like, nope, it's false because he meant to say this other thing. They literally said he meant to say this other thing. So that's what he was saying. They literally like say, well, we understood in the context, he meant to say this word, but he used this other word. So that's what he said and said it was false that he said this damn word. And we're like, we heard the word. It's like, there's a silent K in knife. Like, no, this was a word completely different from what he meant. And because of the context, they said false. This was unproven. The reason I say this is something I'm paying attention to is because think about who's saying it. Think about what he's doing. Think about what he's investing in. Dex, what was the weird thing he invested in too? Besides farmland, we found out he was buying a ton of something. What company was it? Do you remember? Does anybody remember? We talked about this. He's doing he's massively investing in something weird. Gosh, I feel it's like at the tip of my tongue. It was
the lab-grown meat was one of them.
Well, yeah, that too. Why would you buy up the farmland and then also invest in lab-grown meat? Like, well, it's obvious. So you would take away any competition. People can't grow meat on land they don't own. That's what's so messed up. And at the same time, people were saying that there were these rumors that these groups would come by and buy their farm for 4 times what it was worth. Like money was no object. They're like, oh, just cut a check. And I think that those groups are probably tied back to a certain somebody, right? Or a certain country. But then another country that Mr. Gates personally hosts for dinner and also has been hacking Microsoft, and somehow they're not tied together at all. So I would really just keep your head on a swivel for the next year. I believe everything's going to pop off in the next 6 months. And I hope in 7 months that people are like, yeah, you said in 6 months this would all happen. I hope that never happens. I hope that I can come back in 6 months and say everything was a nothing burger. I'm confident that it won't be. Let's see here. Somebody said, yeah, what was that dang company? It was something weird, like an entertainment company or something. I cannot think of what it was. Biolabs? No, yeah, we know that too. It was something totally off. And we were like, I cannot remember. What's up, Marv? Hey, Fubar, Charlie Don't Surf, Team Orca. We got Dr. Sean Barry. What is happening? Fort William, Texas. Own nothing, be happy, eat bugs. Gosh, it's bugging me that I can't remember what he was investing in. All right.
He also invested heavily in Bud Light. That was it.
That was it.
Okay.
That was it. No, that was it. And I don't think it's that's not like a huge, but I remember thinking, why is he investing in Bud Light? He was investing heavily in Bud Light. And it makes you think, were stunts like this done on purpose to cause division and like they know it's coming back? How much division did that cause in the country? I mean, how much fuel did that add to the whole fire that these people are BIGOTSs and how this and that? How much fuel is being put on the fire every day? People were talking about the transitioning stuff every single day. And I feel my honest opinion is people are talking about it nonstop. I understand it's an issue, but as far as everybody's hyper focused on it while all this other stuff is going on, seems like to me that could be used as a really good distraction to keep people, fighting and arguing with each other. When again, there's like crazy stuff happening right now. We can't afford to live. And that was a point. I shared a video on Twitter that was basically saying that, like, we can't afford to live right now. And people are more concerned about that. It is a big deal. But at the same time, is it being done on purpose to make us fight? I mean, it's insane. The last 5 years, things have happened that none of us ever thought would like 10 years ago, this would not. We're in a different world. And that's what's so crazy about it. All right. And let's see here. Washington volcano, Mount St. Helens, is recharging with up to 50 small earthquakes a week, 43 years after the gigantic eruption took the lives of 57 people. My mom actually went through Mount St. Helens, not went through it, but she was in Yakima at the time, and yeah, all of Yakima was covered. She said it was the craziest thing she ever seen. And then my older sister remembers this happening, and it was absolutely nuts. I think I wasn't born, or I was a baby. I feel like I was a baby. What year did this happen? What did they say? 43 years. It's 23. Yeah, I wasn't even born. Yeah, I wasn't born. So my sister was a little girl, and my mom said it was absolutely just something out of this world. She said it was a once in a lifetime thing, you just don't see. The whole city was covered in ash. And that was far away compared to the people right next to it. I'm sure it was absolutely nuts. I think about all the volcanoes that we have here in the Ring of Fire and on the West Coast. And if one of these really does go, it's going to be, man, what a show. Like Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood. There's a whole list. Gosh, everything you ski on. But now they say that it is starting to rumble again in Washington with the spike of seismic activity recorded at the volcano more than 4 decades after its deadly eruption. More than 400 earthquakes have been detected beneath the surface of the volcano in recent months. There have been more than 2,000 earthquakes recorded at the site since 2010. You know what really freaks me out about this is like Cascadia. Volcanoes can trigger earthquakes. Earthquakes can trigger volcanoes. They know this is a fact now. It's not theoretical. It is fact. And that's what gets me about this stuff. If something I don't know about Mount St. Helens, the thing is nobody knows when these are going to happen. But one thing we can look at is the seismic activity and where that is going. Seismic activity could be a telltale that something is going on underneath us, though, too. We could have a big earthquake here. Heck, we are due for a 9.0 earthquake. It's not fathomable. People really cannot wrap their head around it. The closest thing I could say to wrap your head around is the images coming out of Japan in 2011 from that tsunami of the massive cargo ships just being thrown like toys in a bathtub over buildings like that. It's going to be that all along the West Coast. That's what's so crazy about it. It's going to be a 9.0 in Seattle. It's going to be a 9.0 in Portland. It's going to be a 9.0 at the top of California. That's what's so nuts about this. It's not going to be like, oh, it's a 9.0 in Seattle. It's an 8.7 here. It's a 7.2 400 miles away. It is the whole landmass of the two plates, the Marfoogle and the North Atlantic plate, basically going, and it's going to cause a tsunami that can that they now predict is going to be over 120 feet in some areas. Like Mo Clips, they no longer use the Mo Clips evacuation point for the town because they said it's not high enough. The evacuation point is actually a military base, which has some pretty crazy stuff there as well. And they just recently started monitoring it 24/7 because of the seismic activity. It is on limestone at 125 feet, and they don't think that will make it. So that's crazy. And that's because of I think they call it the jetty, but the jetty will actually launch up in many places along the Washington coast. So it's going to launch it up and possibly even double the wave size. I mean, think about how nuts that is. Back to Mount St. Helens, this would be something that is going to be played on news for a week, 2 weeks if you don't live here. If you live here, this is really going to be a spectacle. And if there is any possibility, they say Cascadia, again, could be overdue in some rights. In some rights, they could be another 125 years. Depends on who you talk to. Yeah, very, very crazy. So I'm watching all of the EQ monitors. I actually stopped for a while because it is something that kind of gets to you, especially if you live here. It I guess it gave me anxiety because especially my last two residences, I was in one of them was in a hot zone that would basically be liquefied, and then the other would be underwater. So moved, and we're out of the tsunami range, but we're not out of the earthquake range. It's going to take a lot to get out of the earthquake range. They are going to feel this earthquake 2,000 miles away. 21 states are preparing for the Cascadia subduction zone. So when I hear about anything about volcano activity, after talking with Chris Goldfinger, one of the lead seismologists on this, I'm like, yeah, go watch his TED talk about it. It's crazy. He said it's an absolute fact. Volcanoes can start earthquakes. Earthquakes can trigger volcanoes. So I hope that it is going to chill out, and I hope that it's just going to go back to normal. Dex, do you guys have any? You guys have. You don't really think about volcanoes out there, but don't you have Isn't there another smaller super volcano under your part of the state? I know there's obviously
I don't.
Yellowstone.
No, I don't think so. We don't have anything. We're on a plateau in the beginning of a mountain range, but no, not that I'm aware of any volcanoes. I remember Mount St. Helens. I think I was like 6, 7 years old at the time. I was in parochial school, and I think we raised like money for people out there. But that's we didn't have the internet back then, but I do remember seeing some pretty crazy images from that as a child.
There's a lady down at the Pike Place Market here that still sells little sculptures made out of Washington Mount St. Helens ash. And I kind of thought, I'm like, it's been 43 years. How are you still getting ash? There was a lot of ash, by the way. But I'm like, really, where did they store all of it? And like, is it really made out of, a lot of people question, like, is that really made out of the ash, or are you just taking ash out of your fireplace? Because you totally could. I mean, I don't think too many people are going to take it under a lab microscope and do some sort of test on it, but definitely something to keep your eye on, especially if you're West Coast. Now, one more reminder, Harvest Right has a limited sale that is going until Black Friday, so you definitely want to go do that. Instead of $300 off for the early Black Friday sale, with their link, you can get $500 off. This is a freeze-drying apparatus. This is one of the best freeze dryers on the market. It is very, very simple to use. It's basically a set it and forget it. Again, this is an amazing, amazing machine, and it allows you to freeze dry your own food. If you freeze dry your own food, you're going to save a ton of money. Unfortunately, they are not cheap. These things are extremely, extremely well put together. This is meant to last years and years and years, if not decades. Somebody put it, basically, this is built like they used to build stuff. So this is, again, a really, really nice machine. Once you've invested in it, you can make your money back if you are really doing a lot of prep. If you're not doing a lot of prep, if you just want a 72-hour kit, then this is probably not for you. But if you have a whole family and you are the kind of person that wants 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months of food in your house for each person, this is going to be way cheaper. It's about a quarter of the price to do it yourself. You can do all the Mylar bags. You can seal it. You can preserve anything and everything on your own, and it makes it very easy to do so. Go to marfugglenews.com/freeze. And again, right now, for a limited time, it's $500 off. So go to marfugglenews.com/freeze. Again, you can deal with any kind of diet restrictions. You can freeze your whole garden. I mean, that's the cool thing about it, is that food then can be preserved for up to 25 years. That's inflation proof. I know people that go to the food bank and they literally take food bank food as long as it's not expired, and then they freeze dry it. Then they can keep it for years. So talking about saving money. Again, marfugglenews.com/freeze, and there is still a contest to win one. So at least go over and enter that. All right. And let's see here. Dex, let's go over to web only. Summarize.
Yes, it might need to refresh, but we do have an updated video from Wages World on there. You guys all need to go check out. It's a short one, about less than 5 minutes. So there is a new CME coming in, or a new eruption that is expected to hit this weekend. So if you want to know about that, I don't think it's devastating or anything at that level, but it is pretty high level and it's moving really fast, is what he told us. So we've got that video link there for you. If you want to get to it, just go to our website, and all you have to do is go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, or hit that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here. You'll find all the sources that we just talked about. You'll find this yellow bar that says overflow. That's the rest of the story. So in addition to wages video that we've got there, we also have additional updates about what's going on in the conflict in the Middle East, as well as what's going on around the rest of the globe. The updates from the debates and the rest of the political spectrum are here as well, and much more. So if you want all that nitty gritty on the political side, you can find it there. And snow is now the topic, but it's in Alaska, where you would expect, but they're the first ones to sort of get it. They're getting a major snowstorm up there. So that and a whole lot more, it's all there on our website. If you're looking for that extra content, you're looking for the rest of the story about what's going on, go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or hit that show notes link down below in the description.
Bam. Well, thank you, Dex. And maybe if we'll see, we may just end up playing that video tomorrow in the show. So tune in tomorrow. Again, either way, there's going to be lots of unique things happening tomorrow. I guarantee it. There's things scheduled for tomorrow. And then on the 11th, we don't know what's going to happen there. Veterans Day, by the way, Saturday. Just a heads up. Thank you, everybody who has served in the military. Just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for serving. Thank you in the face of just all of the anti-government, anti-military, anti-everything. Thank you for your service. We do understand the motivations that led you to basically sacrifice your time, parts of your life, or your life to protect all of us and to make sure that we stay free. It may not be a winning cause at all times, but the heart that went into it really does matter to a lot of us. And thank you, everybody here that served or is serving right now. I appreciate you. I think about it every day, especially since we had military in my family, my grandpa as well, one of my all-time biggest role models in my life. Just great people have been in the Foogle fam too. A lot of the great people I know are ex-military. So thank you so much for all of your sacrifices, and happy Veterans Day. But unfortunately on the 11th, they are going to have a huge protest. So we'll see what goes on with that. And yeah, hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully it's a nothing burger, but we'll be covering it Saturday. So make sure to tune in for that as well. And then tomorrow we'll give you updates on if we think anything will go down or if we hear anything from military members. As far as military members right now are saying that, you know, in the next 3 weeks, there could be more deployments. They're being told to get ready to ship out. And this is on top of what is actually already happened. So I think that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be talking about. Probably going to get some mainstream media out of that. So pray for everybody. Pray for our country. Pray for our world. Pray for all of this to go backwards and to stop happening. Love you guys. Thank you to your mods. Thank you to everybody that supported the show tonight. Thank you over on DLive, Kimbria, J-Girl, that's me, Kiki, Gray, Jeep71, and everybody else that helped out tonight. Thank you, and thank you. Carol, a big special thank you to you as well. I appreciate your support tonight. And thank you. You are, I believe, the top supporter tonight. Thank you so much. Carol and MX9, let them eat bugs, ? Guess that's their thing. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Everybody wanna walk the walk, and everybody really wanna do the dog, and everybody really wanna act like Steven Seagal, but nobody actually wants to blood on the wall. Everybody wanna walk the walk, and everybody really wanna do the dog, and everybody really wanna act like Steven Seagal, but nobody actually wants to blood on the wall. With a Danish girl, a Carolyn Morris Smith, and a Susie Cat World, and a Burger Time, and a 72, and a Jeep 71, and a Gale Firestorm too. Hey, with a Danish girl, I say, hey, with the Lord and Drew, and I say, with a moan away, I pet Paradise Acres and the tree. Oh, God, bring it on the motorbike. Hey, with a Carolyn and Mr. Jer, back on American Argonaut. Hey, ballin' the gogs and we buy, and I miss me and cool. I've been seeing every active fool, bringing them down and we no tools. I say back with ballin' the gogs. I got sweat on back with the Tina Drivers. Everybody really want it and I beg a pardon. Hey, Robin Mills and the guy deep behind her. Brian Badge and the Miss Solana on the back with mom with the Lord and Drew. Hey, on down and everybody do a box for Lee and a long live nature bird. Stacey Cook and the say on back on G71 with the scrappy back. Holding on through Tyrus and a Becky D. I'm praying for you, Becky. Thomas Tram on the drive, you know. I hear everybody down on my feet. I did a bone up bag and a nowadays beat up. Away from the crime in the back, no good to time. Politicians, my oh no, man with the car. My said, never do say, They really wanna act like Steven Seagal, but nobody actually wants to blood on the wall. Everybody wanna walk the walk, and everybody really wanna do the dog, and everybody really wanna act like